The transhumanists in your novel are being targeted and killed by Christian terrorists. What is it about Christians that you would think they would target and kill somebody who is a transhumanist?
Well, again, the novel is set up. First off, it's a novel. It's fiction. And it's set up so that there are some Christian fundamentalists out there, and there probably are out there in the world, that would really like to stop all technology. When I talk about trying to live indefinitely or conquer death, some Christians get upset at that because I think, well, why do you need to conquer death if we're going to go to Jesus when we die? And so transhumanists, most don't believe that. I'm an atheist. And so the novel is set up as to kind of show that conflict. And of course, that conflict grows bigger and bigger through the novel. And eventually you get to a point when the Christians say no more science, no more transhumanism. You can have basic health care, but you can't have radical life extension. You can't have artificial intelligence. You can't have robots taking over and taking all our jobs. And that's where the conflict erupts. And so that's what the book's really about.
That's an interesting take on Christianity, because as a Christian, I'm not anti-science. I'm concerned about the misuse of technology, as we talked about earlier with DARPA. And I don't think that Christianity is antithetical to scientific inquiry. I mean, we've had people like Isaac Newton or James Maxwell, who did Maxwell's equations, connecting a unified theory between magnetism and electricity. They were very strong Christians. I mean, they were they wrote as much Christian commentary as they did scientific commentary, perhaps more so in the case of Isaac Newton. So I don't really see that there's any conflict inherent in Christianity. I look at people that are paranoid about Christians terrorizing them, and it makes me, think about the movie An American Carol by David Zucker, where there was this. I don't know if do you ever see that movie? Michael Moore. There was a Michael Moore character, and it was a satire, it was a parody. And the Michael Moore character was doing a documentary that was very anti-American. He was very concerned about Christians. At one point, they even show some nuns in his movie jumping on a bus and pulling out the pen of a hand grenade, which the pen is a cross, and yelling, "Hail Mary," as they blow up the bus. I mean, that's, when I look at that, I think that is a fear that many people on the secular left have about Christians that I just think is really unfounded.
Well, and again, this is where the book becomes a novel, and of course it's designed as well to be entertaining, so there has to be some conflict. But, since I've written the novel, and I started writing the novel 6 years ago, it took me 4 years because about 20% of the novel is pure philosophy. I've grown to realize that actually many Christians are much more embracing of science than perhaps I realized when I was younger. And at the same time, I've also realized that the conflict between transhumanism and some of the doctrine in the Bible is something that's going to have to be faced by every person that wants to, use this technology. In fact, that's why the book's called The Transhumanist Wager. It's based sort of on Pascal's wager, but instead of about God, it's about using technology to live indefinitely. And I think we're all going to be faced with that. And many Christians are going to have to say, well, where does the scripture kind of fit within living indefinitely, or replacing an arm with a robotic arm, or even having cranial implants? Is that really the mark of the beast? Or is that something for our health? And this is, what the book tries to illustrate. It doesn't necessarily, necessarily pick sides either way. Of course, it ends being pro-transhumanist, but at the same time, it hopefully leads everyone to a path where they can say, yeah, technology is good, and so can spirituality. In fact, the wife of the protagonist is very spiritual, so she counterbalances his atheism.
Let me ask you, and I think too, it says in the Wikipedia description of the novel that the wife of the character challenges him, says that death is a part of life. I would say, as a Christian, I don't see death as a natural part of life. I see it as a judgment of God. That is basically Christian doctrine, that the earth has been basically destroyed twice because of rebellion, and death is a punishment. It's not the natural state of man. So I don't really look at Christianity as a cult of death. But
instead of about God, it's about using technology to live indefinitely. But instead of about God, it's about using technology to live indefinitely.
But instead of about God, it's about using technology to live indefinitely.